My brother's voice sliced through the ballroom like he owned the air. Everyone, this is my sister, Susie. No real career, no future, just a dirt and sweat worker. 200 people in tailored suits turned their heads in perfect unison. Champagne glasses froze halfway to lips. A few laughs popped loose, careful, polite, the kind people use when they're not sure if they're allowed to be cruel, but they'll do it anyway if the room agrees. And the room agreed. I stood there in dark jeans and a cream silk blouse I'd bought specifically so I wouldn't look too worksite. I'd spent 3 days arguing with myself over that outfit like it was a court case. Not too fancy or Gregory would call me desperate. Not too plain or I'd become the sloppy embarrassment. I thought I'd found the safe middle. Turns out there is no safe middle when your family wants you small. Gregory lifted his glass with a smug little grin, like he just told the funniest joke in the world, and I felt heat crawl up my neck and into my cheeks. I glanced toward my mother on instinct like I always did, still hoping at 34 years old, that maybe this time she'd do the one thing she'd never done. Stand up for me. Instead she smiled. Not a full smile. Not a laugh. Just that tight little expression she wore whenever Gregory put me in my place. Like she agreed but didn't want to look rude in public. That was the moment something inside me went very quiet. Because I realized I had spent my whole life begging for basic respect from people who didn't even believe I deserved it. Let me rewind. My name is Susie Fowl. I'm 34. And according to my family, I'm the failure who plays in dirt for a living. What they don't know and what I never told them is that I run Fowl & Company Landscape Architecture. We have 47 employees and crews working across 3 states. Last year we cleared 8 figures in revenue. This year we landed a multi-million-dollar city contract for a downtown riverfront restoration. My company has been featured in major design publications. We've won awards. We build the kind of outdoor spaces that make real estate developers smile and city councils brag. But at family dinners, I'm still Susie and her little gardening thing. I stopped correcting them years ago. Not because I couldn't, because it never mattered what I said. They didn't want information. They wanted a label. And labels are easier than admitting they misjudged you. My brother Gregory is the reason. Gregory is 38. 4 years older than me, and somehow treated like a mythological hero in our family. He works in finance, which in my mother's mind is the same as sainthood. From the day he got his first internship in his early 20s, my mom started introducing him like a trophy she'd personally earned. This is my son Gregory. He's going places. Every holiday was a slideshow of his life. Promotions. Bonuses. His car. His suit. His important clients. And me. Susie's still doing her outdoor stuff. I used to explain carefully, patiently. Mom, I'm a licensed landscape architect. I design and manage construction projects. I run a company. She'd blink like I just described a hobby involving birds. That's nice, honey. But when are you getting something stable? Something indoors where you don't get dirty? Eventually I learned something painful. You can't teach people to respect you if they benefit from not respecting you. Gregory benefits the most. He's always needed me beneath him. Not because I'm actually beneath him, because he needs a contrast. He shines brighter when he can point at me and say, "At least I'm not that." 3 weeks before his merger celebration, he called me. And when my brother calls, it's never because he misses me. "Listen," he said, already sounding annoyed, like my existence was an inconvenience. "This night is important. There will be serious people there. So, maybe don't talk much about your ditch-digging business." He actually said that. Then just to make sure the knife went in deep enough. "I don't need you embarrassing me." I should have declined. I should have laughed and hung up. But here's the embarrassing truth. I still loved him. Or at least I loved the version of him I kept in my head, the kid who used to build blanket forts with me, the teenager who taught me to drive, the brother I kept hoping would finally remember I was family too. So I said yes. And I showed up. The Grand Metropolitan Hotel. Crystal lighting. Marble floors. A ballroom full of power and perfume and people who looked like they'd never carried anything heavier than a briefcase. And the second I walked inside, I nearly laughed because I recognized the place. Not because I'd been there as a guest. Because my company built the hotel's new outdoor terrace. The sustainable garden features. The custom water installation. The whole project. 14 months ago, my crew had hauled stone and soil through those same doors. I'd stood on site in boots, directing every detail. There's a bronze plaque near the lobby fountain with our company name on it. Fowl and Company, right there for anyone paying attention. Gregory had walked past it without seeing a thing. That's what people like him do. They don't notice the work. They only notice the title. I grabbed a glass of champagne and tried to become invisible. That's when I saw my mother arrive, gliding straight toward Gregory like his orbit was the only place she knew how to exist. She hugged him for an absurd amount of time. When she finally noticed me, I got a quick wave, the kind you give a neighbor you don't want to talk to. Her eyes said it clearly. Don't ruin tonight. I was planning my exit when someone tapped my shoulder. And there he was. Todd Brennan. My ex-boyfriend from 8 years ago. The man who dumped me because, in his words, I was going nowhere with that lawnmower life. He looked polished, overconfident. And yes, his hairline looked like it had been negotiated with desperation. Susie, he said like we were old friends. I smiled politely, because I wasn't about to give him the satisfaction of seeing me flinch. And then he said the sentence that made my stomach tighten. I'm here with Gregory. He's been telling me a lot about your work. Of course, Todd wasn't a random coincidence. He was a potential investor. This entire night wasn't just a celebration. It was a stage. And I was invited for one reason, to be the joke that made Gregory look bigger. Right on cue, Gregory clinked his glass and called everyone's attention. He slipped an arm around my shoulder like we were close. He pulled me forward. He smiled. And then he introduced me the way you introduce something you're ashamed of. And that's when the room laughed. That's when my mother smiled. That's when something inside me finally stopped begging. Because while everyone was focused on humiliating me, I noticed something else. Gregory kept checking his phone, over and over. His smile didn't reach his eyes. His hand shook just slightly when he set his glass down. And across the room, an older man in a dark suit wasn't laughing at all. He was watching Gregory with calm, sharp attention, like a person waiting for a weak wall to crack. Our eyes met. He raised his glass to me just a fraction. Not friendly, not flirty, more like recognition. And in that moment, standing in the center of my own humiliation, I felt the first spark of certainty. Gregory wasn't celebrating because he was winning. Gregory was celebrating because he was desperate. And I was about to find out why. Before we go on, don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. And comment below, what would you have done if your own family humiliated you in public like that? I didn't go back into that ballroom right away. I stepped to the side, near the edge of the crowd, where the lighting was dimmer and the laughter couldn't reach me as sharply. I kept my face neutral, years of practice. In my family, showing hurt was treated like handing someone a weapon. Inside me, though, something was shifting. Because while everyone was busy pretending my brother's joke was charming, I kept watching Gregory. And the more I watched, the more I knew. He wasn't relaxed. He wasn't proud. He was performing and panicking. He checked his phone again, fast like a reflex. He swallowed too hard. He laughed half a second too late. A man who's winning doesn't do that. A man who's trying to convince a room he's winning does. And then, like life wanted to confirm my instincts, Vanessa slid up beside me. My sister-in-law always moved like she belonged in expensive spaces. She had that kind of confidence you get when your entire personality is curated. She looked me up and down with a fake smile that never reached her eyes. "Oh, Susie," she said sweetly. "You actually cleaned up. I'm surprised." I didn't respond immediately. I sipped my champagne instead, buying myself time. Vanessa leaned in closer, voice dropping like she was sharing something intimate. "Gregory's under a lot of pressure tonight," she whispered. "So please don't make this about you. He doesn't need extra stress." Extra stress. Like I was a problem to be managed. I looked at her and realized something terrifyingly simple. They didn't bring me here as family. They brought me here as a prop. I gave Vanessa a small nod. Calm. Controlled. "Don't worry," I said. "I'm not here to make anything about me." Vanessa seemed relieved, like she'd successfully handled the situation. Then she drifted away, already scanning for people who looked more important than I did. I should have left. Honestly, I could have walked out and saved myself another hour of humiliation. But I didn't, because I saw my father. He was sitting near one of the windows, half in shadow, his suit hanging on him in a way that made him look smaller than I remembered. Older. Tired. Like he'd been shrinking quietly for years and nobody had noticed, because Gregory's life was always louder. My mom stood near him talking in that sharp, clipped whisper she used when she was irritated. My father nodded at whatever she said, but he didn't really engage. And something about it made my stomach tighten. I started walking toward him. Gregory intercepted me like he'd been waiting. Not a warm greeting. Not even "Hey sis." Just irritation. "Not now," he hissed under his breath, his smile still plastered on for the room. "Dad's fine. Don't start anything." "I'm not starting anything," I said evenly. "I'm saying hello to my father." Gregory's jaw flexed. "I need you to mingle," he snapped. "Todd thinks you might be useful for some lower-tier clients. Small jobs, yard stuff. Could help you." I stared at him. Useful. Lower-tier. Small yard stuff. My company had designed the terrace we were standing next to. But sure, let's get me some yard stuff so I can finally build a resume. Something inside me wanted to explode. Instead, I did what I've learned to do when people underestimate me. I let them. I let Gregory guide me back toward the center of the room, and I let Todd appear again like a bad memory refusing to fade. Todd leaned in like he was about to give me the secret to success. "You know," he said, "I always knew you had potential. You just lacked direction." I almost laughed, because I'd built my entire company without him, without my family, without anyone's approval. But Todd didn't know that, and my family didn't know that. And in that moment, I realized the reason I'd never told them wasn't because I didn't want to brag. It was because I wanted something that should have been basic, for them to respect me without needing a dollar amount attached. I wanted them to love me without conditions. And standing there, trapped between my smug brother and my condescending ex, I finally saw how naive that was. That was when my mother drifted toward me. She didn't ask if I was okay. She didn't mention Gregory humiliating me. She just took my arm lightly like I was a child and whispered, "Please stop sulking. Gregory is nervous tonight. Be supportive." I looked at her. "Supportive," I repeated softly. She frowned as if I was the one being unreasonable. "This is important for him," she insisted. "You know how hard he's worked." The words hit me like a slap, because I knew exactly what hard work looked like. I knew it in early mornings on job sites, boots sinking into mud. I knew it in payroll weeks when I made sure 47 people got paid before I paid myself. I knew it in injuries, weather delays, clients threatening lawsuits, equipment breaking at the worst possible time. Gregory's hard work was convincing people he mattered, and my mother bought it completely. I didn't respond. I just nodded. Calm. Controlled. Because again, showing emotion in my family was never safe. I slipped away to the terrace, my terrace, and finally inhaled air that didn't smell like ego and perfume. Out there, the noise faded to a dull hum behind the glass. The night was cool. There was jasmine in the air. Soft lighting over the water feature. My water feature. I stood there staring at the design and felt something I hadn't felt in a long time: pride. Not the kind you show other people. The kind you keep in your chest because you earned it. That's when the older man stepped out onto the terrace. The one who hadn't laughed. He walked like someone who didn't need anyone's approval. Late 60s, silver hair, expensive watch, calm eyes that missed nothing. He nodded toward the garden beds. "Beautiful work," he said. "Especially the water installation. Sophisticated." "Thank you," I said cautiously. He looked at me with quiet certainty. "You did it, didn't you?" I blinked. "Excuse me. This terrace," he continued. "Your style." I recognized it from Morrison Park. My pulse jumped. Morrison Park was one of our award-winning projects, national coverage, design recognition. Most people in this town had no idea my company was behind it. But this man did. "How do you know Morrison Park?" I asked. He smiled faintly. "Because I pay attention. And because Architectural Digest doesn't just feature anyone." He held out his hand. "Warren Beckford." The name hit me like cold water. I didn't know him personally, but I knew enough to understand his weight: investment banking, high-level finance, The kind of man who didn't casually show up at a random merger celebration unless he had a reason. I shook his hand carefully. Should I know you? I asked. Probably not, he said. I'm retired. But I still have friends. Still hear things. His eyes flicked back through the glass toward the ballroom where Gregory was working the room like his life depended on it. Your brother is in trouble.